You hate government, one of them libertarian types, or maybe you just can't stand the president, gun grabbers, or warmongers. Me too. That's why I invented LibertyStickers.com. Well, Rick owns it now, and I didn't make up all of them, but still, if you're driving around and want to tell everyone else how wrong their politics are, there's only one place to go. LibertyStickers.com has got your bumper covered. Left, right, libertarian, empire, police, state, founders quotes, central banking. Yes, bumper stickers about central banking. Lots of them. And, well, everything that matters. LibertyStickers.com. Everyone else's stickers suck. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Yes, I am watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure out of the corner of my eye. It's one of my favorite movies. That's how we learn about history, right? Yeah. So I was recommending it to my friend Eric. He's never seen it before. I got the link here. I'm going to send you the link to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure on Netflix there.
Thank you.
So that you'll have it, and then that way you'll know history.
Thank you. I need to.
Yeah, exactly, obviously. All right, no, seriously, though, Eric Margolis, he wrote history. He lived it and was there and reported all about it all over the entire planet. Long-time war reporter, foreign correspondent for Sun National Media back when. He writes for UNS.com and for LouRockwell.com. You can also find his website at ericmargolis.com. Spell it like Margolis, ericmargolis.com. And he's the author of the book War at the Top of the World, all about Kashmir and Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and all that mess over there. And then, of course, American Raj, Liberation or Domination, which is about the American Empire, mostly in the Middle East. So anyway, read those books. God dang it, they're really good. So I want to talk with you mostly about the war today, the Islamic State and all of that. But then again, I imagine that you probably have something worthwhile to say about the torture report. And so I thought I'd just kind of give you the floor. You could take that any way you want if you want.
Well, every American citizen should have something strong to say about the torture report. I do, for sure.
Well, go on ahead. You have an open floor here.
Okay. Well, I've been following this story since 2003. Most of the grisly details of the vile tortures inflicted on suspects or anti-Americans, who we call terrorists, have been reported in the media extensively. I've written about them in my columns. I find it horrifying. I always have that the United States government would indulge in these practices. Torture under American law is illegal. Under international law, it's illegal. It's un-American. It is, as has been said, even the president said it, totally against American values. But we did it. And the question is, if we don't punish the people who were guilty of this crime, because it was a war crime, it was a domestic crime in the United States under our law. If we don't punish the people responsible, we are condoning torture, and it will happen again. And the danger of torture, as I saw during the French repression of the Algerian Revolution in the 1950s, is that unless torture is stopped at its source, it will spread like a virus into domestic police forces and domestic security agencies and become par for the course. We can't allow this. My final point is, there's an old Taoist saying, you become what you hate. And surely, as I read about these damn psychiatrists who were paid, or psychologists who were paid $81 million to devise tortures, and the foul acts we inflicted on people, the kidnaps and the murders, etc. I used to think we're as bad as the Soviet Union, but now I realize to my horror that we've become worse than the old Soviet Union.
Well, and now, on the part about, us becoming worse, and I'm an individualist, obviously. I don't mean to be too broad brush with the whole collective thing, this, that, the other. But then again, in 200 years, they'll say the Americans, fairly speaking. And what you're saying about it, how un-American all this is, the problem is, is, like you're saying, without the accountability, it becomes American. It's not anti-American. It is American. Like when I was a kid, I heard of Chinese water torture. Like that's something from some barbaric medieval Chinese past where they would torture somebody with water like this or something. But this is not something that any civilized society would participate in at all. This is the fate worse than death. This is how we know that we're civilized, is because we don't do this. I mean, it's kind of as black and white as it could be. And what happens, because they've, especially Karl Rove and them, are so good at just turning this into a partisan issue where people just line up on their same old given sides and all this. They've actually, I think, already succeeded, right? It's 2014 we're having this conversation here. They've already succeeded in convincing, half the population, the right-leaning half of the population of this society, to give up on even the pretense that justice is our cause and our creed and the thing that we're interested in here. Fairness and liberty and justice for all. That's what makes America America. And Bush convinced them that, nope, screw justice, line up behind power. Conservative Republican power, and they made that deal with the devil. They're more than happy to. Hundreds of millions of Americans.
Well, that's right, and it's shocking to see. We continue to castigate Nazi Germany. How could the Germans have allowed this to happen? How could the concentration camps, etc.? But look, here's a perfect example of a large group of people who are frightened or terrified, which is what's been happening, into closing their eyes and allowing the annulment of all our laws and traditions out of fear. Well, the Germans did it, and we've done it too. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Personally, I was asked to serve on the Church Commission way back when, in the late 70s?
Yeah.
That then investigated all the wrongdoings of the CIA. And we probably need another purge of the CIA, but I have a caveat, and that is, having followed intelligence affairs very closely, that the CIA and its leaders would rarely do anything under their own initiative. They're bureaucrats. And I believe that Bush and Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, all those people have full responsibility for what happened. They know that they're scared to travel abroad because they might be arrested, and they probably should be. I add Mr. Blair to this list too, and say that some kind of action has to be initiated against these people for breaking the law. But we have a Justice Department that is become a lapdog of the president, won't do anything on its own. And as you say, we don't have the indignation in America, or the fact that the people are horrified by what happened. Oh, they're just Arabs. Who cares?
Right. Well, and that is the headline at USA Today. Justice Department will not reopen torture inquiry. And all they ever had was what started as the obstruction of justice inquiry into the destruction of the torture tapes, which the prosecutor then expanded to a preliminary investigation into the 2 cases of CIA murder. Now, Lawrence Wilkerson's going to be on the show in 20 minutes to talk about how the military murdered more than 100 people, tortured more than 100 people to death. But the CIA apparently, excluding down at Penny Lane, murdered 2 guys in Afghanistan. And he looked into that for a minute and then said, nah, that was as close as the Justice Department ever got to looking at torture at all, was simply the murders. Forget the torture. We got a memo. All right, one sec. More Eric Margolis in just a sec, y'all. Hey, Al Scott Horton here for The Future of Freedom, the monthly journal of the Future Freedom Foundation at fff.org/subscribe. Since 1989, FFF has been pushing an uncompromising moral and economic case for peace, individual liberty, and free markets. Sign up now for The Future Freedom, featuring founder and president Jacob Hornberger, as well as Sheldon Richmond, James Bovard, Anthony Gregory, Wendy McElroy, and many more. It's just $25 a year for the print edition, $15 per year to read it online. That's fff.org/subscribe. And tell them Scott sent you. All right, you guys, welcome back. I'm Scott Horton. It's my show, The Scott Horton Show. I got Eric Margolis on the line. We're talking about the evil American empire. Yeah, let's get back to that, what you said. Worse even than the commies, huh? Eric?
Well, yes, as I reflect back, I mean, the torture inflicted by the KGB, and I've been to the KGB's Lubyanka prison in Moscow. I've seen the cells. I've seen the torture devices. What we have done is as bad, if not worse, than KGB. It's the same old story: the freezing to death in people's cells, beating them to death, injecting them with psychotropic drugs, terrifying them, starving them, etc. It's worthy of a total totalitarian police state, and I think that's what's happening now. As you know, we have a confluence of these crises. We have Snowden, who revealed how Big Brother is listening in, and now probably starting to listen in to us at night too in our bedrooms. We have the kidnapping of citizens. We have the assassination of American citizens. We have big steps forward to a police state. And if we don't dig in our heels over this torture issue and do something, the process towards totalitarian state will continue.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing, man. It seems like we're really giving up, not we, but American society. So much of it has given up on, keeping our priorities. Like people want to argue about Social Security payments, or they want to argue about, whatever other kind of, public policies, this and that. That's one thing. But there's supposed to be a 100% unanimous consensus by all Americans over the age of 18 that, no, we all insist on fair trials, even for child molesters and killers and murderers and terrorists. And we always will. We always insist on free speech. We always insist on search warrants. We always insist our police call us sir and ma'am and not treat us like we're damned dogs. And we always insist, et cetera, et cetera. Just the very basic things, peace. The very basic things that people at least used to think were the kind of very underlying basis of what it means to be American. Although, you don't even hear people say, hey, this is America, to mean it's a free country anymore, right? They say it to justify evil sometimes, but they don't say it like, hey, so that's why you should back off, because it doesn't even mean that anymore.
That's right. Well, it's after the Reichstag fire in Germany, and the German parliament passed what was called enabling legislation, and within 6 months, for sure, all the safeguards of German democracy had been made void, and the Nazi Party took complete control. This is a terrifying example, because 9/11 was a similar example. Now that we're learning about all the horrors of the so-called war on terror, which I've always called a faux war on terror, and I refuse to use the word terror because it's a propaganda term, we should start questioning other things too. Let's go back to 9/11. We still wonder how much was covered up and obfuscated there. We're at a point now where we really don't trust our government. We should, as Americans. It's our government, but we are finding things that are more and more disturbing. And finally, there's a movement afoot already. You could see it. Even though Dick Cheney, I just saw him on TV saying that Bush knew all about and authorized the torture from day one. Mm-hmm. So did he. There's a Bush movement saying, oh, well, the president really didn't know about it, and he was misled by these evil CIA officials. That's the standard line. Well, it wasn't the CIA evil officials there, though there were some like Hayden, but this comes right from the White House, and fingerprints are all over these things, and we mustn't let the high officials escape, as happened in the question of the Abu Ghraib prison scandal, where a couple of low-down people were left holding the bag, and the big boys escaped.
Right. Well, so let me ask you this. Is it possible at all that Obama's our Gorbachev and that this will be the fall of the USSA here? I mean, there's a severe lack of confidence in government on all levels, right? The polls for the last few presidents and the last few Congresses, the approval ratings are as low as they have ever been. We have the crisis of our murderer police on the streets, still continuing protests in almost a dozen cities or something across America over police murder right now. We've got, of course, all the corruption of the bailout of all the banks and all the resentment for that'll never go away. We got the endless wars and all the endless scaremongering propaganda, the torture report coming out. Is it possible that Americans could just give up their consensus for D.C. rule in the first place? Like, you know, if the Constitution doesn't bind their power, then how does it create their power anyway? If it's no law at all, then it's no law at all. We should be completely free of them.
Well, Scott, I don't see Obama as an American Gorbachev. I wish he had been, because we desperately need some glasnost, perestroika, and honesty and decency in Washington, which has become totally corrupted by money.
I guess I just meant in the sense of accidentally bringing the empire down, which is not what he meant to do, but sort of did anyway.
Gorbachev was a man of principle and conviction and honor.
Bad comparison. You're right.
Obama has none. He's just wishy-washy and won't take a position on anything. You know, I remember when I was in the military, there was a concept we called command responsibility. And if your ship hits a rock, well, the captain of that ship is responsible, even if he was fast asleep in his bunk. And but you know, the idea of the buck stops here, or it happened on my watch, doesn't exist anymore amongst these low-grade politicians that we have in power. Somebody has got to take responsibility for this.
Yeah, time for an American spring, if you ask me. All right, so now I guess we can I wanted to kind of just talk all about the war with you, but it's still part and parcel of this same conversation. What about the next disaster? Because I know it's already ongoing, but then again, I'm predicting huge advances, and that's the wrong term for it. Huge, incremental advances in the numbers of troops fighting in former Iraq and Syria and the Islamic State next spring, next summer. They say they are determined to sack Mosul and drive the Islamic State out of power there. Seems like, I don't know, if Afghanistan helped bring down the Soviet Union, seems like this terror war might just be able to break America's back and bank, permanently, as it was meant to.
Well, certainly that's what Osama bin Laden said. He wanted to draw the U.S. into all these little Lilliputian wars and bleed the United States economy. The Iranian militants have said that to me too. They said, let them invade Iran. We welcome them. America will break its teeth on Iran. So there's a lot to that. And what we see is Obama sneaking troops back into Iraq. This is really white officers leading native troops there. And it's an absurd situation. We've been at war in Iraq for, I think it's 13 years now. And we're deepening our involvement. I think ISIS barely exists. I think it's like another Al-Qaeda that never had more than a couple of hundred people to begin with. The battle for Kobani on the Turkish border has been going on for months. Where heavy bombers are bombing it, and it's been called this Kurdish Stalingrad, and yet nothing has really happened. It's almost a theatrical rather than military events.
Yeah. Well, it seems like their ability to expand much further than they've already conquered is seriously in question. But then again, it doesn't seem like anybody's really coming for them. I mean, who's going to be able to kick them out of Mosul? And I don't even think the Peshmerga and the Americans are going to do it. It's going to take the American Marines, right?
Well, the Americans, don't forget that we Americans had 5,000 troops in Iraq before ISIS even appeared. They had been kept there after the alleged U.S. withdrawal. They were as private contractors. I love free enterprise. In world affairs, we have private contractor torturers and now private contractor security forces. These were U.S. military forces rebranded as private contractors. 5,000 based in the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, which is one of the two biggest in the world, along with the embassy in Kabul. What Osama bin Laden called crusader fortresses, and they are. So we have mercenary troops who were paying for there, among them these Peshmergas. So there's a lot of military involvement, and the U.S. military is just down the road in Kuwait. We have about 2 to 3 mechanized brigades based in Kuwait, which can be in Baghdad in a matter of hours. So we haven't really, we're gone, but we haven't left.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm predicting the worst there. It seems like really just the news cycle has already taken care of it. Americans, it's not like 02, 03 where people are really engaged and all right, even if they're for it, at least they're paying attention. There's a big war going on. Now it's like just another war when really, I mean, this thing, I don't see it. They claim that David Petraeus said the day that they were invading or the week of the initial invasion in 03 as they were rumbling toward Baghdad. So tell me how this ends. And I don't see an exit ramp here other than going back in time and electing Ron Paul in 2012 or something. Well, even his son wants to full on declare war like we haven't done to anyone since Hitler. So
we have the Republican jihadists waiting to take over in January. And a lot of these, I used to be a Republican, by the way. I'm a fallen away Republican. A lot of these guys are very extreme. They have nothing to do with the old Republican Party that I belong to. They're Midwestern Prairie, Bible Belt extremists, and they want more war. Just listen to them. Ironically, the only person who made sense really in Congress on the Republican side was John McCain, who actually saw war, was a prisoner, and denounced this whole torture episode. I see the other people, particularly my own New York State ghastly Representative King, lauding torture and saying it's a wonderful thing. And the Republican Party has become the party of torture and warfare overseas. We should really call it what it is, the imperialist party.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, Eric. I'll let you go with that. I already kept you over, but I sure appreciate it. That's the great Eric Margolis, everybody. War at the Top of the World and American Raj, Liberation or Domination are the books. Check them out. Get them at Amazon. You can find them at scotthorton.org/books, in fact. And also check out all his great articles at ericmargolis.com. Spell it like Margolis. LouRockwell.com and UNS.com. That's UNZ, UNS. Oh, John Kerry's Mideast peace talks have gone nowhere. Hey, I'll Scott Horton here for the Council for the National Interest at councilforthenationalinterest.org. U.S. military and financial support for Israel's permanent occupations of the West Bank and Gaza Strip is immoral, and it threatens national security by helping generate terrorist attacks against our country. And face it, it's bad for Israel, too. Without our unlimited support, they would have much more incentive to reach a lasting peace with their neighbors. It's past time for us to make our government stop making matters worse. Help support CNI at councilforthenationalinterest.org. Hey, all Scott here. If you're like me, you need coffee. Lots of it. And you probably prefer it tastes good, too. Well, let me tell you about Darren's Coffee Company at darrenscoffee.com. Darren Marion is a natural entrepreneur who decided to leave his corporate job and strike out on his own, making great coffee. And Darren's Coffee is now delivering right to your door. Darren gets his beans direct from farmers around the world. All specialty, premium grade with no filler. Hey, the man just wants everyone to have a chance to taste this great coffee. darrenscoffee.com. Use promo code Scott and you get free shipping. darrenscoffee.com. Hey, all Scott here. First, I want to take a second to thank all the show's listeners, sponsors, and supporters for helping make the show what it is. I literally couldn't do it without you. And now I want to tell you about the newest way to help support the show. Whenever you shop at Amazon.com, stop by scotthorton.org first, and just click the Amazon logo on the right side of the page. That way the show will get a kickback from Amazon's end of the sale. It won't cost you an extra cent. And it's not just books. Amazon.com sells just about everything in the world, except cars, I think. So whatever you need, they've got it. Just click the Amazon logo on the right side of the page at scotthorton.org or go to scotthorton.org/Amazon. Hey, Al Scott Horton here to tell you about this great new book by Michael Swanson, The War State. In The War State, Swanson examines how Presidents Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy both expanded and fought to limit the rise of the new national security state after World War II. If this nation is ever to live up to its creed of liberty and prosperity for everyone, we are going to have to abolish the empire. Know your enemy. Get The War State by Michael Swanson. It's available at your local bookstore or at Amazon.com in Kindle or in paperback. Just click the book in the right margin at scotthorton.org or thewarstate.com.